Hello and welcome to another Timeless video. As we continue to explore the powerful new lands that have been added to the format, today we're gonna get the most out of Eldrazi Temple, a land that can make 2 colorless mana to cast our Eldrazi spells or activate their abilities, and we're playing it alongside a bunch of other soul lands, as they're known, named after Soul Ring, as they can produce 2 colorless mana. There's Ancient Tomb, which can make 2 colorless mana at the cost of 2 life, and then we also have the full playset of Uggin's Labyrinth, which does require us to imprint a colorless card with mana value 7 or greater, so when we play it we can exile one of those from our hand, and then it can also produce 2 colorless mana, which we can use on whatever we want, so it doesn't have the restriction from Eldrazi Temple, and at some point later in the game we can also return the imprinted card back to our hand, so we can still cast it. So we've got 12 of these soul lands that can make 2 mana. 8 of those we can use to cast a Chalice of the Void on x=1 on turn 1, which is a great way to stop a lot of decks in the format, as they can no longer resolve any of their 1 mana spells, and because we have all those lands producing 2 mana, we don't have any 1 mana spells ourselves, so the Chalice is only going to be affecting the opponent. Occasionally can also cast one on x=2 or more, but for the most part we're playing it for x=1, so this gives us some pretty effective interaction in some matchups, and then most of the rest of the deck is just a bunch of Eldrazi that we're hoping to ramp out as soon as possible. Another land worth mentioning, of course, is Strip Mine. Unlike the other Timeless deck I've already featured, where Strip Mine was the MVP, here it's kind of just a side note and not our primary game plan, but we can still search it up if we cast a Sowing Mycospawn, so even if we don't kick it, we still get to search our library for any land and put it onto the battlefield. If we do manage to kick it for 6 mana total, then we also get to exile target land, so we can maybe take out 2 lands at once if we manage to find our Strip Mine with the ability. And then our only other non-Eldrazi card is the Solar Transformer, which we can also potentially cast on turn 1, enters tapped, and then functions as a mana artifact, making either colorless mana or colored mana if we pay an energy, so we can activate that 3 times. So that can also be helpful if we somehow end up underneath a Blood Moon, which would turn all our non-basic lands into mountains. Then with a Transformer we can still potentially cast some of our spells, but of course that's not a card we want to be facing as the Eldrazi deck. And then at 2 mana we've got It That Heralds the End, which we can easily play on turn 1 already, discounting our 7 mana cards, so that's pretty useful since we've got a bunch of those. And then other colorless creatures get +1/+1, also pretty nice effect, especially alongside our spawn tokens, so those can also start chipping in for additional damage. Then at 3 mana there's a Glaring Fleshraker, which is both a win condition as well as a way to generate additional mana. Whenever we cast any colorless spell, doesn't have to be an Eldrazi spell, we get to make an Eldrazi spawn token, and whenever another colorless creature we control enters, it deals 1 damage to each opponent, and then the spawn tokens can also be sacrificed to generate colorless mana to help us ramp. Then a Coast LLC command is another very flexible answer that gets to choose 2 of the 4 different modes, and it also benefits from Eldrazi Temple. Despite being an instant, it's still a Kindred instant, so it has the Eldrazi type, so we can use the mana from Eldrazi Temple on it, and then we can either generate a bunch of Eldrazi spawn tokens, we can scry X and then draw a card, exile a creature with mana value X or less, or exile up to X target cards from graveyards, and we can even cast command for x=0, in which case we could still technically exile a token and then draw a card, so that's also an option, but usually we want to get a little bit more value out of it. And then at 4 mana, Thought-Knot Seer can come down as early as turn 2 if we have 2 of our soul lands, and then a 4/4 creature that when it enters looks at the opponent's hand can exile a non-land card from it, and then when the Thought-Knot Seer leaves the battlefield, they don't get their original card back, they simply draw a card at random. Then we mentioned the Mycospawn, which is a bit more difficult to cast on turn 2 since it does require colored mana, but it's still possible if we cast a turn 1 Solar Transformer, for instance. And then our 7-drops, which we need to potentially pitch to our Uggin's Labyrinth, still provide value besides just casting them for 7 mana, as Null Drifter could be evoked for 2 and a blue, in which case we still get to draw 2 cards, otherwise we can cast it for 7 mana, and then in addition to drawing 2 cards, we get a 4/4 flyer with Annihilator 1, so when this attacks, our opponent has to sacrifice 1 permanent, so that's also pretty powerful. Still gets a discount even if we evoke it, if we control It That Heralds the End, so then it only costs 1 and a blue to evoke, and 6 mana to cast. And then a Devourer of Destiny can also be very nice if we have it in our opening hand, as we can reveal it and then look at the top 4 cards of our library, choose one to keep on top, the rest goes into exile, so that can also smooth out our draw, maybe help find another soul land to speed things up. And if we do manage to cast it, we get a 6/6 that gets to exile target permanent, that's 1 or more colors, so it gives us some more removal. And then 2 copies of Drowner of Truth can be played as a tap land, making either blue or green, which are the 2 colors we're playing, besides of course being mostly a colorless deck, and can also be a 7 mana 7/6, making a pair of spawn tokens, so that's also not too shabby. And then besides the Soul Lands and Strip Mine, we also have the full set of Cavern of Souls to make our Eldrazi uncounterable, very good against any blue control decks, and also important to make colored mana for Myco Spawn, Null Drifter, and Drowner. And then Secluded Courtyard is just kind of a worse Cavern of Souls, but still fills a similar role. So I'm not running any basic lands, which could backfire, but since now Strip Mine is the most common land destruction, it's not like basic lands are particularly safe. Could also maybe play with a card like Breeding Pool, which we can still find if our opponent channels a Boseiju, but with the Courtyard and Cavern of Souls, we don't need to deal ourselves any damage, so I think they're still better, but there are some scenarios where you would want access to either a basic land or a land with at least a basic type. But for now, let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw. We have double Eldrazi Temple, so turn 1 it that heralds, turn 2 Thought-Knot. Might have to wait a bit longer on Chalice. Still seems okay. Opponent sacking an Arid Mesa for a Blood Crypt and a Thoughtseize. So, somewhat likely to take a Thought-Knot Seer. And now Strip Mine an option 2. Yeah, that might be better than just playing it that heralds into Thought-Knot, just slow the opponent down a bit. Possible we draw Ancient Tomb and can play Chalice on 1 next turn already. Don't think I need to play it on 0. Alright, so we can proceed. And then next turn I can consider Chalice before we Thought-Knot if we're afraid of some efficient removal spells. Opponent gets Theater. This could be an Underworld Breach combo deck with Dark Rituals. Could be a Mardu kind of mid-range energy deck, in which case Chalice on 1 seems effective. Alright, never mind. Thoughtseize can take it away. Still takes Thought-Knot. We are flooding a bit. Well, Chalice on 1 it is. So, no longer need to worry about Thoughtseize or Discharge. But now I do need to worry about drawing a threat. Bowmasters, not the scariest, since we're not drawing a ton of cards, unless we draw, I guess, our name Eldrazi. Null Drifter, of course, would draw and trigger the Bowmasters. Amped Raptor's still good, but might find a 1-mana spell, like another Discharge, which would get countered. A Drowner, we should be close to casting. 6, 7, yeah, I can cast it right now. So that should hold the line. Chalice counters most removal spells, I would take it out. And do we even consider attacking here? Opponent is at 9, since they shocked themselves and cast a bunch of Thoughtseizes. So it seems worth it. Something like a Coast LLC command would also be a good top deck. Any of our 7-mana creatures. Opponent did have another Bowmasters, as it turns out. Shoots down a spawn. So now Null Drifter could be a little awkward. Yeah, if our opponent keeps casting Bowmasters turn after turn, we could still lose. Devourer. So, could devour the army now, could let them jump with it, and then devour maybe the Raptor. And our opponent scoops it up. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have 2 7-drops we can pitch to a Labyrinth. Still missing kind of a second soul land. Can go It That Heralds, maybe command for 1 on turn 2. Up against the Lurrus deck, so they're gonna have a low curve. I guess we can always play Drowner as a land, and we also have Devourer to help find one, so yeah, this seems good enough. We get a few looks at another 2-mana producing land to then curve It That Heralds into Thought-Knot Seer. And yeah, Eldrazi Temple is going to be our choice. So turn 1, just go Labyrinth, pitching. At this point, maybe Drowner, keep Devourer as something I can cast. It That Heralds. And next turn, Thought-Knot Seer, have a look. Opponent's gonna return the favor here. They don't know about Eldrazi Temple on top, but they might still go for Thought-Knot. Alright, so I can command for X equals 2, which is still fine. Can essentially draw a card and make a few spawn. Could have considered casting in main phase to play around an Orcish Bowmasters. Alright, opponent's got a Steel Cutter instead. Exile only creatures with mana value X or less, so cannot hit their artifact. So we will scry X and make spawn. Which also get pumped by It That Heralds. Find Ancient Tomb. And draw Thought-Knot, so we have lots of great options. Start by attacking. And then I could just cast a Devourer, which can exile the Steel Cutter and don't even have to sacrifice any spawn. So yeah, pretty good. Turn 3. Channeler is next. And a Lightning Bolt takes care of It That Heralds. Should probably just nickname him Herald. Herald down. Alright, so I can Thought-Knot. Question is, do I want to return the Drowner? That seems worthwhile. So start by attacking. So I'm fine taking 2 off Ancient Tomb. See, Unholy Heat, a Lightning Bolt, Amped Raptor. Raptor's probably the best card, as it can be a 2-for-1. If they double bolt my Thought-Knot, that's acceptable. I guess Unholy Heat is close to Delirium, so that could take out Thought-Knot by itself. Yeah, maybe Unholy Heat is still the pick. Although if they find one of Amped Raptor, I'm gonna be sad. Raptor blocking Thought-Knot and using a Lightning Bolt is also a possibility. So maybe I should just take the Raptor. And then can play Courtyard, play Transformer, sacking a spawn. So next turn we have double blue or green to cast the Drowner if I pick it back up. Yeah, it was a close call between Raptor and Unholy Heat, because with Delirium this can even take out our Devourer. So it's good to have an extra big Eldrazi coming up. A Ragavan without dash. So they're planning to block and then cast a removal spell. Now Null Drifter's pretty good too. So can start there. Attack. Yeah, if we drew into a land plus a Chalice, I could have played Chalice on 1 before attacking, so it seemed worth it to play Null Drifter first. So our opponent bowls Thought-Knot to draw a card in return. But yeah, they've got a lot of catching up to do. Could be reasonable to play Drowner as a land now, since we've got more action. So they can take out one of my 2 Eldrazi. Bobble. Maybe hoping to draw another Unholy Heat. Alright, now I can Chalice on 1. So let me start there. And our opponent scoops it up. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We have 1 soul land with Ugin's Labyrinth, plenty of 7 drops to pitch, and then Devour can also maybe find something else exciting. So we'll try it. Let's see what our opponent's up to. Turn 1 Mountain, and Swiss Pierce Teachings, so more of a burn deck. So a Chalice could be effective. Ancient Tomb, also reasonable, or I can just grab the Transformer and play it off Ugin's Labyrinth. So I don't need to deal myself a bunch of damage against an aggro deck. And then I'm probably gonna prefer Null Drifter. So next turn we have access to 4 mana. Don't know if I want to Flesh Raker and have it get taken out by a Lightning Bolt. Could just Kozilek's Command and then ram towards Null Drifter that way. Could also get Blood Mooned at some point. So that's a concern, but at least Transformer helps make colorless mana. Alright, another Teachings. So it triggers Prowess thanks to the Teachings. Channeler already has aced. But it's also a good target for Kozilek's Command. Another Ugin's Labyrinth, but I don't really want to lose the Null Drifter. So I'm still leaning Kozilek's Command here. Hitting Channeler, could do that now, before they enable Delirium some more. So exile creature, make some spawn. And pass a turn. Soulscar Mage is next. Also enters with haste, thanks to the second Teachings. And a Rapier. Okay. Take 3, and then next turn cast a Null Drifter. Flesh Raker into Thought-Knot Seer, also now an option. Do we prefer that? Yeah, I'm gonna have to sack the spawn, so I can't go back-to-back 7 mana plays necessarily. A 4/4 can still get shrunk by the Soulscar Mage. So maybe Flesh Raker into Thought-Knot is still better. I guess we also get a replacement spawn token, so that helps. And we can maybe take away a burn spell. Alright, opponent just had a Swiss Spear left. So yeah, with a Labyrinth I guess we can still Null Drifter next turn. The board is technically stable, unless they top-decked. A Reckless Rage. Still manageable. They can flash it back. Could just line up some trades. Opponent does get to draw Thought-Knot Seer. I think that's fine. We get to resolve Null Drifter and take over. I guess never mind, this isn't a trade anymore. In that case, I probably take 8, keep Thought Knots. Sure. And drew Heralds. That does discount the Null Drifter by 1. So if I still had the Flesh Raker, I could have played it first. Now I cannot quite double spell both. So in that case, we'll just Null Drifter. And then do I feel comfortable attacking? I think I should play defense for a turn. If they top deck another Reckless Rage, I don't want to be forced to trade away the Null Drifter. Next turn we can Myco spawn with Kicker. Ooh, Screaming Nemesis. And that's kind of a blowout. Yeah, I don't have a great way to stop that. So I guess I block with Null Drifter. They can take out Thought Knot or Null Drifter. If I had some spawn in play, I could maybe trump it more easily. They could also just go face and hope to top deck a Lightning Bolt. Alright, that's what they do. And Round of Truth, the draw, would help in maybe stopping another Screaming Nemesis from hitting me. Yeah, I cannot afford to use Ancient Tomb. So currently only have 6 mana. So yeah, I guess it's Myco spawn with Kicker. Exile lands. Can get Eldrazi Temple, still play Heralds, since I don't think getting Strip Mine really does anything for me. And then I can attack for 10, presenting lethal for next turn. So they've got 1 turn to top deck. I can now beat Nemesis by blocking with Heralds, and then they can only redirect 2 damage. I guess I can still play the Ancient Tomb, but probably not gonna activate it. A Slick Shot, that's only 1 in the air, so that's not quite enough. And another Myco spawn I could also play, but an all-out attack should do it. Close one. So the decision of blocking with Thought Knot or the Flesh Raker maybe should have gone the other way, but luckily we still got there in the end. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We have double Eldrazi Temple, still doesn't allow me to cast turn 1 Transformer. So then Devourer is looking for either Ancient Tomb or Ugin's Labyrinth, but then we still don't have any meaningful disruption. So against the combo deck, this is probably not going to work out. Against kind of a fair creature deck, this could be fine if we eventually start ramping out our 7-drops. So this one's borderline. I'm still going to keep it. Can also maybe cast a turn 2 Thought Knot Seer if we draw it or find it with a Devourer. Still can't quite Chalice turn 1 either, unless we want to play it on 0. So we'll see what our opponent's up to. Sacred Foundry Ocelot, so it's kind of an energy slash mid-range deck. And we can pick up Thought Knot Seer. So play Temple and pass. Could technically also evoke a Null Drifter. But yeah, we need to get a blocker down for the Ocelot Pride as soon as possible. Chalice would be effective in this matchup, although they still have some impactful 2-drops like Ajani. They're not running a companion like Lurrus, so they could also have Blood Moon in there. Or now Magus of the Moon in creature form. So then Solar Transformer is actually pretty useful, as it can fix for both colored mana and colorless. But we'll see. Ocelot attacks, opponent's got a tap land. So, yeah, Thought Knot Seer is looking pretty good. They might still have the Static Prison to answer it temporarily. Maybe they're running Swords to Plowshares. Okay, take our turn. and see what they're working with. Okay, opponent does indeed have Static Prison as well as Galvanic Discharge. So Discharge deals 3 in Timeless as opposed to 2. So then I would not be able to block the Ocelot Pride. Flage is kind of the last of my problems. So Prison versus Discharge. Yeah, can't really stop the Ocelots while Discharge is still in hand. So then I can force them to Static Prison, hope they run out of energy. And Ocelot gets to go off in the meantime. They could also attack and then use Flage to finish off Thought-Knot Seer. But that's an okay trade. So yeah, opponent just uses Static Prison. And they picked up a 2-drop, Ragavan, dashed. So yeah, we've got some problems to deal with. Chalice would have been awesome on 1 here a while ago. Don't think our opponent's casting it on 0. Uggin's Labyrinth helps. So, pitch a Devourer. Play double Transformer this turn. And then next turn we can try and stabilize with our 7-drops. Hopefully it's not too late. Ragavan is back. City's Blessing has been achieved, so Ocelot starts doubling tokens. And they're gonna Flage. Pretty far from escaping it, at least. So, probably gonna go for Devour, Exile Ocelots. And then we'll eventually get Thought-Knot Seer back anyway. And then I could even return the Devourer to cast them back to back. But yeah, we could still die to our opponent going wide, especially if they have some burn spells to finish us off. Opponent's gonna dash Ragavan, so now I have to decide if I want to block Ragavan or a 1-1. Probably still Ragavan. Just save my life total as much as possible, take 4 down to 3. So I'm gonna be dead to Flage escaping, but we can maybe turn the corner pretty quickly. I mean, we're dead to Flage no matter what, so probably shouldn't worry about it. Alright, so I can either cast a Null Drifter or get back a Devourer, which can devour a cat token. One makes more sense. Yeah, attacking with the Devourer is sketchy, but we are getting back Thought-Knot Seer, so that presents an extra blocker. Still dead to a lot of spells, including maybe another dashed Ragavan. I think I go for Null Drifter, hope to draw something useful. Alright, Heralds is a good one. An extra blocker that pumps the team. So I think I should attack, because if our opponent escapes Flage, it's just game over. So I need to get to game over with myself. But yeah, could still be dead this turn. Thought-Knot can maybe take another Flage, which they actually had. So they can play Fable. If they had one more card in graveyard, they could escape, but Flage is one of the 5. So luckily they didn't have a fetch land. So we're still alive, barely. But of course Fable can set up the escape next turn. So I need to draw Kozilek's Command to exile their graveyard. So does that mean I keep the Uggin's Labyrinth producing 2 mana, so I'm more likely to be able to draw and then find the Kozilek's Command and cast it? I mean, Kozilek's Command for 1 or 2 would be enough, Could still cast it for 6 as opposed to needing to evoke it. Yeah, I guess I'll keep the Labyrinth charged up. Fleshraker is also decent. So let's say we play Fleshraker, I cast Null Drifter, then I could still Coastal X command. Did not draw the Coastal X command, so yeah, now I'm probably dead to Flage. Attack all out, Transformer pings with Fleshraker once more. What a close game. We've got a dominant board state, but early Ocelot Pride just got enough damage in. So as long as they discard their card, they can escape Flage. GG's. Three damage to close it out. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a Temple as our only land, although Devourer can look for another one. So then turn 1 Herald, turn 2 maybe Chalice. Yeah, I guess we'll give it a try. If we fail to find a land with Devourer, we're in trouble. Alright, found an Ancient Tomb. Could also technically Coastal X command for 0, just to cantrip, but we'll save it for later. Opponent with turn 1 Ragavan of Volcanic Fissure. So, somewhat likely to be a Blood Moon deck, or some sort of Charbelcher combo. So probably start with Thought-Knot Seer over Chalice. Alright, it is just kind of a red-green land destruction deck as we see Magus of the Moon. So that's a scary one. What does the Zone Guard do? If it's tapped, return a land from your graveyard to the battlefield. So to combine with Strip Mine, presumably. And then the Myco Spawn, they do have Ancient Tomb. So yeah, next turn they could have already cast the Magus of the Moon, so we have to take it here. They get to play a Fable instead. And then we're hoping to draw our Solar Transformer to still give us access to colorless mana. Or we just need to get a few threats in play. Another Thought-Knot's not a bad way to go about it. So the first one can attack. Could also decide to draw with Coastal X commands. And make some spawn, which can ramp out a Devourer. Which would, let's see... Yeah, with 2 spawn, once these are shut down, I'm still pretty far from casting Devourer. But it would help. Now let's just Thought-Knot first. Just putting a 5/5 into play is pretty good. And then opponents got their own Transformer. The Myco Spawn's probably the scariest, since it can find a Strip Mine. And we kind of need our lands at the moment. Pass it back. Hope they don't find a Magus of the Moon. Although at least we've got a pair of Thought-Knots in play already, with our opponent at 10. Should have maybe considered playing Chalice on 0, since I wouldn't be surprised if our opponent has Chromox in their deck, which of course we cannot play as a colorless strategy. So block Ragavan. Opponent needed extra mana here. For a Fury. So that can finish off one Thought-Knot Seer, trade for another. And I guess, yeah, they can finish off Herald as well, which will shrink down Thought-Knot, so yeah, pretty nice play. Opponent gets to draw. But at least we still have access to our mana. There's a Transformer as well, so that can help. So Kozilek's commands, exile creature with mana value X or less, so that's an answer to the Shaman. Yeah, I guess we could do that. Cast this for X equals 0, just to deal with a token and draw a card. And then I can still play Transformer. And maybe I should just Chalice on 0. I also have to watch out for the combo of Reflection with Fury, so that's a reason to trade off for Fury first. Yeah, I got kind of caught in two minds. Maybe should have just exiled the Shaman before they got the treasure, because now they got green mana out of it. So I think I take the trade, and then I'm still gonna probably Kozilek's command the Shaman after all. Opponent's got a Strip Mine. And goes for Ancient Tomb. Myco Spawn I can cast if I draw land, which I did. And get another Eldrazi Temple. Unless I want to strip mine my opponents, but they have access to red mana anyways. It would maybe slow down another Fury, which is double red, if they have one in hand. But long term I'm probably better off with the Eldrazi Temple. So then without any land hate, I'm just a top deck land away from casting my 7-drops. Can always evoke Null Drifter to draw. And yeah, opponent's casting another Fury. So yeah, that's not great. Opponent can activate Reflection on it. But they're also at 3, so they have to be careful with those Ancient Tombs. Now I can cast a Devourer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so don't need to pitch anything to it. And then Fury is probably the scarier of the two, since that can also trade for Devourer. Opponent's gonna Rumble. Falls to 1. And our opponent concedes. Awesome. Very close game here against Gruul, Land Destruction. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Chalice is not coming down turn 1. Can cast a Kozilek's command for 0, which is not all that exciting. Opponent with Giganta's Companion. Doesn't tell me a whole lot. Probably kind of a red-white mid-range deck. So Chalice is effective in that matchup, but they're still going to go up to 3 mana to cast some powerful spells. So I think we mulligan. This is a slight improvement. Can Herald on 1, turn 2 Transformer, take it from there. Maybe ditch a land, because Courtyard's not one of the more exciting ones. And yeah, opponent's got the turn 1 Ocelot. Ancient Tomb could let me play Transformer now. Next turn, either way, I can Kozilek's command Ocelots if they remove the Heralds. So we'll give this a try. And yeah, static prison my heralds. So I'm gonna have to answer the Ocelot before it gets out of hand. Opponent also has a Ragavan. Mycospawn I cannot quite cast, so I can save myself some damage by playing Courtyard over Ancient Tomb. And then still lean towards removing Ocelot over Ragavan for now. Opponent goes to attackers. And then I can make a spawn, or I can draw a card. Could see the spawn being useful and eventually ramping out on Old Drifter. But we already have a decent amount of mana, so maybe drawing a card is better. And a Strip Mine could come in handy. Sure. Opponent exiled Eldrazi Temple. And now Goblin Bombardment to combine with a Ajani. Now I could have a look with Thought-Knot Seer. Or I could Mycospawn, get another copy of Strip Mine, deal with the Sacred Foundry. Although they already have a treasure, so they could still cast a 3-drop regardless. So then maybe Thought-Knot Seer is more valuable at the moment. Can save myself a bit of damage. And then next turn I could kick the Mycospawn as well. Alright, opponent's hand is empty, so... could have been worse. Although they still draw a card if Thought-Knot dies. So they might actually activate their companion ability here. Still getting in with Ragavan. I mean, with Bombardment, there's a number of combinations in which they can finish off Thought-Knot Seer. Still seems worth the trade. Or they're gonna Lightning Bolt it now. Galvanic Discharge. So next turn we're still getting back our Heralds. Opponent could cast their own. Although never mind, they don't have actual colorless mana to cast it. Now an Amped Raptor giving energy helps with the prison, finds Guide of Souls. So that was a pretty powerful hit. Because now they can keep the prison fueled or they can start flying over. Yeah, cannot cast Herald since you need colorless mana, which treasures don't produce. And now Chalice on 1 could be pretty decent. Although this turn it's gonna be kicked Mycospawn. Exile your Sacred Foundry. Could get another Strip Mine, blow up the Parlor, but they already have a bunch of treasures. So then instead I could get another Ancient Tomb. In order to Chalice on 1, I would fall to 10. Have to be careful with the Bombardment. Or I can just get another Eldrazi Temple. I guess I could also get Ugin's Labyrinth to still Chalice on 1, pitching Null Drifter. But then I have to spend some resources getting Null Drifter back in hand first. But yeah, maybe that's still worth it. Stop any future 1-drops. No more Guide of Souls, Static Prison, Ragavan, Ocelot Pride, Galvanic Discharge. Most of their deck, basically. But we still don't have a great solution to Ajani if that shows up. Don't want to block Amped Raptor with Mycospawn, because then they only need to sack 1 creature with First Strike to finish it off. This way we still trade for Ragavan at least. And they still need to sacrifice something. So a little bit surprised by the attack. Next turn we are getting Herald back. Opponent goes for Gigantha. But now Devour is a good draw. So I can Devour the bombardments, and then Devour deals with Gigantha just fine. And I could also strip mine them if I want to. Yeah, I think I strip mine. And then we might just end up evoking the Null Drifter next turn. And with Herald in play, it only costs 2 mana to evoke for what it's worth. His opponent's going for Gigantha. Still has a treasure left. If Gigantha ever flies, thanks to the guide, we're in trouble. Chalice now we probably want to play on 2 to stop cards like Ajani. There's still some 3-drops like Flage, which would be bad for me. Maybe Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Chalice on 2 stops Raptor and Ajani, which is probably the priority. Problem with Ajani is that it triggers Guide twice, so then they can fly Gigantha and potentially threaten lethal. If I get back Null Drifter, I can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not quite cast it. Yeah, tough call. I can evoke it for 2 mana. So maybe the play is just Chalice on 2, and then still get back my Null Drifter end of turn. And then next turn I should still be able to cast it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll be at 4 though, so that's scary. But now we only need to worry about 3 drops from the opponent's deck. No attacks. Get back Null Drifter. And draw another Transformer, which is a dead card. I'll draw 2. Probably fine to play this. No attacks. If they draw Flage, we're probably dead. Wow, and our opponent explodes. So yeah, it took a while to get there, but eventually we locked him out of the game and Null Drifter can take over. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Turn 1 Chalice or Transformer. Can look for more threats using Devourer. So, yeah, seems okay. Even if they thought sees 1 Chalice, we have a backup. It's gonna be a Channeler. So yeah, Chalice on 1 should be good. Could also play 1 on 0 afterwards. Although opponent's not playing with Lurrus as companion, grab probably Eldrazi Temple still over Fleshraker. And then I have to decide which creature to pitch. I'm probably more likely to wanna Null Drifter first. So I can pitch Devourer. Chalice for 1. And then I think I Chalice for 0 as well, unless we want to save 1 for x equals 2, which could also be worth it. Next turn play Transformer, turn after I can Chalice on 2. Yeah, I mean, the only 0 drops are Bauble, maybe they've got Chrome Mox as well. Bowmaster's main phase, I guess it does punish the Null Drifter. Ancient Tomb lets me Chalice for 2 already, but then I cannot play the Transformer. So maybe it is Transformer first, and then play Temple. taking 3, so that's still manageable. Does not strike me like a Blood Moon deck, but I could be wrong. Another Devourer, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can cast a Devourer right now. Could be better than going for Chalice on 2 first. Can exile a Bowmaster, so we maybe get to Null Drifter without triggering it. Yeah, sure. And no second Bowmasters end of turn. Yeah, I've got a feeling Chalice is doing a lot of work right now. No attacks from our opponents. So if I want to be safe, I should maybe Chalice on 2 first before we keep going. So if we Chalice on 2, don't need to deal myself any damage. And then I'll still chill for now. Even though I could evoke Null Drifter. Let's just cast it. Opponent's looking at the graveyard, so this could be an Underworld Breach deck, in which case Chalice also shuts it down. If there's some sort of Storm combo deck, Chalice stops Dark Ritual, and second Chalice stops a bunch of other cards they might be running. Demonic Tutor gets countered, opponent still gets to Surveil. So maybe that's what they were investigating, to see if it was worth it just to trigger the Channeler. But next turn we'll have a nice 4/4 flyer on defense. Channeler also countered. Adds creature, so this now flies. So yeah, opponent's getting desperate. Struggling why they're attacking with the Orc. Okay, can cast an uncounterable Null Drifter for what it's worth. See if we can prevent tapping the Ancient Tomb. And then we may as well start attacking. Still have to be a little careful if our opponent's got a Tendrils, because that does not get countered by Chalice. They could still increase their Storm count by casting something cheap. Fury is a good one too. Takes out Null Drifter and can trade for Devourer, so yeah, opponent might be back in the game. So we have a couple options. I can pick back the Devourer, cast it, exile Channeler, and then just attack, see if they trade for Fury. If they take 6, then I maybe just exile Fury. Yeah, let's start by attacking. Opponent takes it. So, still gonna return this. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Don't need to Ancient Tomb. Or I could, let's see, does Myco Spawn help me in any way? Can get another Eldrazi Temple. But yeah, the flyer is a problem if they're gonna Tendrils me to death somehow. So I think I'm less scared of the Fury. Since we can just trade for it, presumably. And our opponent explodes, awesome. So yeah, Chalice for the win in this matchup for sure. But still gotta watch out for those Evoke Elementals, which can sneak past it. So yeah, Eldrazi, definitely the real deal now in Timeless. We'll still occasionally lose to a combo deck that's off to a very quick start. If you don't have that early Chalice on 1 to maybe slow them down. You could also be vulnerable to the various Blood Moon decks that are of course also playing with Strip Mine. Magus of the Moon now reinforces that game plan even more, so there are some bad matchups out there, but at least this deck is pretty consistent at providing a clock with our creatures to get the game over with, so we're not giving the opponents a ton of time to necessarily draw out of it if we've got a good start, and then we've got just enough disruption between Chalice, Thought-Knot Seer, Kozilek's Command can answer creatures, even answer graveyards as well if those are a problem, so that's another flexible answer, and even our Curve Toppers can be cast on the cheap or still provide value, even if we're not casting them for 7 mana, between revealing Devour of Destiny in our opening hand, maybe evoking a Null Drifter, or simply playing Drowner out as a land, and we can also pitch all these 7 drops to our Ugin's Labyrinth to speed things up. So yeah, overall quite satisfied with how this deck ended up, and it could technically still improve if the developers decide to retroactively add some Eldrazi themed cards to Arena, thinking of Eye of Ugin as probably the most powerful addition, as another land that can help cheat out our Eldrazi, and there's even some other Eldrazi that have been printed over the years that we don't have access to on Arena just yet, so those could also maybe power up this strategy. But for now, I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.